Hi everybody, I'm George and today I have with me the Nikon Z50 II. It's a DX crop sensor camera, so it's going to function a lot like an APS-C or Super 35mm camera with a 20.88 megapixel sensor. But what's really exciting is it has the same processor as their flagship cameras, which is the X-Speed 7. So you can use the same processor within this tiny thing as with the Z8 and the Z9. When it comes to video resolutions and frame rates, this thing packs some pretty impressive spec. So firstly, it shoots 4K up to 60p, so that's 4K slow-mo. It is worth noting though that 4K 60 will come at a crop, and that's an additional crop amongst the DX of about 1.5 times. But you can also shoot 4K real-time speed, so up to 30p, and that is without any crop whatsoever, and that's actually oversampled from 5.6K, so you're getting a little bit more detail in there. But if you want even more slow motion, then you can actually shoot all the way up to 120p, albeit in full HD, so you're getting a little compromise there, losing a little bit of resolution, but making up for it in terms of frames per second. But all of these modes can be shot in 10-bit or 8-bit. That means that you can cater the size of your files to the project that you're doing, and if you want that color flexibility, you can shoot in 10-bit, but if you'd rather have smaller files and a quicker turnaround time, then you can shoot in 8-bit. If you do want to play around with all of the colors coming out of this, then you can shoot in Nikon's log format N-Log, which of course will provide you with a very flat look, meaning that it's much more malleable for color grading. But if you don't want to grade your footage, Nikon have thought about that too, because there's loads of cool looks that they've built into the camera. They've even created a dedicated button on the top of the body for them. There's loads to choose from, so you can make sure that you're choosing the look that you want, and it's going to be baked into your stills or video. That being said though, you can hop onto Nikon's imaging cloud where they have a host of looks on there also. These are going to be from your favorite Nikon creators, so if you like their style, the way that their images look, then you can copy their looks onto your camera, download them and then shoot like they can, or you can create your own bespoke looks just for yourself. Lastly, on video, one of my favorite things that might seem simple is the fact that just via a USB-C, you can plug this directly into your PC and it will perform as a webcam. I hate it when you have to have all this extra software for cameras, so it's really nice that they thought about that and included it. One of the other things that actually pairs quite nicely with that too is something called product review mode, and this is actually brand new to Nikon's system. Now, the product review mode is essentially something that you might have seen YouTubers or streamers do where they hold products directly to the camera. And the cool thing about this product review mode is that you can even tailor the AF speed so that it will snap back quickly or a little bit slowly. And that brings me really nicely onto the general AF system of this body. The Z50 II uses a hybrid AF system, which is part contrast detect and part phase detect. It has 209 autofocus points covering 85% of the sensor. What's so exciting about that though is that because it is borrowing that processor from these cameras behind me and their flagships, you're getting essentially much of the autofocus performance that you'll get from their full frame cameras in a DX system. This gives you benefits like having subject detection modes, of which there are plenty, so whether you're shooting people, vehicles or animals, this should have you covered, and it even has 3D and subject tracking. This is one of my favorite features because if you're a content creator, which I'll get onto in a bit, but I think this camera is very much designed for, it means that you could just tap the point on your screen which you want to remain in focus and it will track it, meaning that let's say I was wandering around and I was filming myself, if I just tapped it on my own face, I know that it's going to stay locked on the entire time. When it comes to the stills performance of this camera, you get up to 11 frames a second continuous when shooting in RAW. If you just want to shoot in JPEG, you get all the way up to 30 frames a second. But what's really exciting with that is that you also get pre-release. Pre-release means that for up to 1 second before you hit the shutter, it is recording those images, and that can do that all the way up to the 30 frames a second in JPEG. This means that if I'm shooting anything like sports or wildlife, anything that's particularly unpredictable, of course I can hit the shutter after a moment's happened, and as long as it was within that second before I hit the shutter, I'm still going to have captured those images. So we've covered the internal of the camera, but what about the external? Well, I think for me, as a user of the Z50 when it originally came out, the thing that's very noticeable is the grip has been significantly improved and it feels really solid in the hand. Of course, brilliant for slow shutter stills, but much more useful for the vlogging / content creation features of this camera. One of the other things with this camera is that the battery is backwards compatible, so if you have the old batteries, they're going to be usable in this system. But I think something that's very apparent when using this is the improved EVF. It actually has double the brightness, coming in at 1000 nits. But if you don't want to use the EVF and you'd like to use the screen, then you'll be happy that the screen is now vari-angle. Of course, as this is a camera primarily for content creators, it is essential that you have a flip out screen where you can see yourself, so I'm really glad that Nikon have added that in. We have a built-in flash and there's a tally lamp on the front just so you can make sure that you're actually recording. We've all made that mistake before and it's just such a pain, so it's really nice that they've added that feature. And the last thing I want to tell you on the body is the weight. It comes in at 520 grams, and that is including the battery and SD, which just shows how lightweight this compact system is. But what do I think, and who is this for? Well, I think it's actually pretty obvious in my eyes. This camera is very much catered for content creation. Somebody that perhaps doesn't have loads of experience with cameras, but still has a reasonable bit. If you pick up this, it's very well designed, it's very easy to use. It means that you're gonna learn your tricks of the trade, and it has those nice things like those looks so that you can bake in really good looks and deliver perhaps straight for social with this camera easily. But also because of that processor that it's kitted out with, it means that it shares many of the spec of its older and more expensive siblings. Therefore, you can buy this, learn the tools of the trade, but it still has all of that spec in there so that you can then take on professional jobs and get a little bit more serious about your craft. I also think that this camera has a bit of a dual use, because not only is it for people that are just getting started out in the industry, but also for somebody who is a bit more experienced and perhaps even owns one of the cameras behind me, whether that be one of the Z6, Z7, Z8 or Z9 models, this should serve as a really nice B cam. I also think it's very cool if you are new to the Nikon system or not actually, because it takes exactly the same lenses as all of the other cameras in their range, meaning that it doesn't matter whether you're using it on this or a significantly more expensive camera, you can mount the exact same bit of glass on the front of it. Lastly, I think it's very well catered for people who are traveling or going on a holiday. Because of that lightweight nature of the system, because of that flexibility from the lens mount, it can go in a bag really easily and you don't have to worry about it all the time. You can sort of just pop it, whip it out of your pocket, take some nice photos, but then carry on with your day without your camera and your gear being the main focus of your trip. Now, unfortunately today, I haven't actually really been able to do an awful lot with this camera, so hopefully Wex can get it back in to play around with it a little bit more. But that being said, if you do have any questions about this body or any of the equipment mentioned in this video whatsoever, then pop a comment down below and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. But otherwise, have a lovely day and we'll see you in the next video.